What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Time Killers podcast. My name is Neil Rivera, and I'm killing time with Mr. Matthew Field. How's it going, Matt?
Doing well. Happy to be here.
I'm also killing time with Mr. Wesley Rivera. How's it going, Wes?
I'm young, dumb, and full of spaghetti.
I'm so glad you self-censored yourself there. And joining us again to talk all things Death Stranding, Mr. Afro Cyborg himself, Joe Wilson. What's going on, Joe?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here.
Are you also full of spaghetti, or are you full of other substances?
No, I had a couple of breakfast burritos a couple hours ago, but you know.
Do you want to be full of something?
Yikes! Okay, we're gonna launch right into the show, guys. We've got a great show lined up for you. We're gonna be talking Death Stranding 2, the latest from Kojima Productions. We've all been playing it and or watching it. And Matthew and I can't speak for you, Joe, but correct me if I'm wrong, we've all been playing ReMatch, which is the latest from Slow Clap, the developers of Sifu. But yeah, with that being said, guys, let's get right into the show here. Death Stranding 2, this is, like I said, the latest from Hideo Kojima Productions, direct sequel to Death Stranding 1, which released in 2019, and we've all been playing. It came out June 27th? Am I getting that correct?
June 26th, I think.
June
26th, yeah.
So it's been out for a little bit, little while. We're recording this on July 8th, so we've had some time to play the game. I'm just going to do a quick round robin to go around and see how long we've all been playing and about where we're at in the game. Joe, let's start with you.
My game clock, last time I checked, was around 45 hours, but I just finished chapter 5. So
nice. Matt, how about you?
I think I'm honestly not sure. I don't have it pulled up right in front of me. I would say maybe 35 hours, but I'm more chapters in than that. Maybe chapter 8, I want to say. Maybe, yeah, 8. I'll say 8.
Yeah, you're pretty far in. Wes, how about you?
I have currently clocked in 0 hours, but I have been watching enthusiastically as my partner plays Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, and I've played. I'm in the ballpark of you, Joe. I'm probably in that 25 to 30 hour mark, and we are right at the same spot. I'm in chapter 6, so quite a lot. I've got quite a bit of thoughts, mostly on the gameplay front. I won't. We're not gonna, for the purposes of keeping this spoiler free, we're not gonna get too much into the story here. We might touch on some narrative elements here, but really, I mean, I would say up to the point where I'm at right now, there hasn't been a ton of story. It's been a lot of introducing new characters, kind of reintroducing systems, sort of setting up the main conflict of the game and sort of the main pull. That's dragging Sam, into the fold again here. So yeah, I mean, I guess let's start here really with the opening prologue. Obviously, I think, jumping from, I think the thing that's apparent, I think, in this opening is that just the jump from PS4 to PS5 is insane. The Decima engine continues to be the best engine in games. Anyone have any thoughts here on the engine, or the intro here?
I mean, just looking at the opening shot from when he stands up and gets ready to head back home, it just absolutely gorgeous. I was just floored personally.
Yeah, I think this opening sequence, especially when you first take control of Sam, is Kojima knowing exactly what he's got and wanting to flaunt it a little bit right from the start. The graphics are incredible, and he opens up with a sequence that's drastically different than the scenery and vibes that the first game was known for. I think it's a really great opening. I won't go into some of the plot beats there, but you're seeing a different side of Sam, which is really interesting and sets the game off on a good note.
if I could make a comparison to the intro to the first versus the second one, you do notice that with his journey, the beginning of the first one was very dark and cold and wet, you know, with literal imagery, whereas in this one, it's bright and sunny, and you can see, you know, knowing what you know from the first game and his journey, and then seeing this reflection of his, you know, of who he is now with the visuals, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, no, I mean, going back to what you were saying, Matthew, is that it very much strikes me as like, yeah, no, Kojima knows what he's got. And like, I mean, honestly, like, if I had to sort of, distill my thoughts on both Death Stranding 1 and Death Stranding 2 up to this point that I've played, is that like Kojima has just nailed the world building and the vibe, and like all he is giving to you is just a toolbox, you know, of different gameplay mechanics that sort of mesh, you know, interact with one another. And he's giving you the world that it takes place in, and then literally just sets the scene in terms of like, here's, you know, like my private curated music playlist that like I personally think really goes well with this game. And like, you know, for those of us who have followed Kojima over the years, like, you know, we know how much like movies and music and like art of all forms mean to him. And like, it really feels like all of that is sort of dialed up to 11. Like this feels like, to me, the most personal game that he's ever made.
Yeah, I think it benefits, Death Stranding 2 benefits a lot from the sort of table setting already having been done in the first game. My recollection of the beginning hours of the first game was that there was a lot of exposition, just kind of defining what the world is, you know, what the Death Stranding is, like what are all these BTs. And I think that was feedback that they internalized, and you know, I think that what you see here is an opening few hours that really tries to show more than tell, and it's able to do that because a lot of that work has already been done in the first game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was one thing that really stuck out to me, was that like, yeah, they wasted no time getting you into like sort of like the core gameplay loop, you know, ramping up in terms of giving you some of those sort of core items like the bike and the, you know, even the pickup truck and some of the weapons. You know, for me, like I was a heavy exoskeleton user in the first one, so to get that right off the bat was huge too. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, one thing I will give this game credit for is, you know, like yes, the first one is very exposition heavy. I think you nailed that. I think the second one, they do a great job of just sort of touching on different elements as they come up, of like, hey, you know, like, you know, and Kojima does this, right? Like I feel like the dialogue is written in such a way that it is just like, it is meant to be an explanation to you, the viewer. And I think there's a lot of that here in this sort of first act of like, hey, yeah, you remember this, right? Like, you know, we went across the UCA, we connected everything. And like, you know, obviously the people who know, but like it does sort of it does a good job of distilling the sort of core moments of, the first one in such a way that like, it doesn't feel like I was really nervous coming into this one. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't remember all of the fine details. It's going to be even crazier. Like, and I do feel like they did a good job of just sort of like bringing us up to speed really quickly.
Did either you play through that little guided recap of Death Stranding 1 that they prompt you with at the beginning?
Yeah, I made sure that I played it just to try and remember any bit of Death Stranding 1, because I think I blitzed through that and it was almost a fever dream. Yeah, but it was like a good refresher as, oh, this is what happened, and okay, I'm picking up stuff that I totally forgot about.
Yeah, no, Matthew, I remember like right before the game came out, I was talking to you specifically about a plot point. I'll refrain from spoiling Death Stranding 1. But there's a plot point at the very end of Death Stranding 1 that I was like, unsure or unclear about, and it was actually a piece of dialogue with Dollman, who was just like, yeah, you remember, like, there's a dream sequence, and you kind of, it calls back to like that moment at the end, and then Dollman's there, like, kind of with one of those like quintessential Kojima explainers there to like remind you of what happened. So I thought that was like perfectly executed. But yeah, I mean, speaking of which, I think that's a good kind of transition here into sort of like our cast of characters, right? So I mean, obviously there's some mainstays from, you know, the original game. We've got characters like Fragile making their appearance. You know, what are we thinking so far? You know, it does seem like, you know, at the point where I'm at in Act 6, that there's definitely we've introduced a lot of characters, and I'm starting to get to know them better, but there's a lot of mystery around it. Joe, how are you feeling so far about like the characters compared to Death Stranding 1? You know, both the ones that are carried over and some of the newer ones.
I am interested in seeing like more about what happened with Fragile compared to the first game. Like what's gone on between those, what was it, 11 months between 1 and 2? Mm-hmm. I am still like curious about like, okay, what happened to, not Mama Lockney and, Die Hard Man and Heartman. I know Heartman comes up, later on in the game. I just haven't gotten to him yet, but meeting other people like, Tarman, and the fact that his face is George Miller. It's like, come on, Kojima. We know that you love movies. How many other directors do you have in this game? How many other bands do you have in this game? I am curious, like, more people that we're going to meet along the way, but, you know, it is kind of distracting seeing all these directors and stuff.
Yeah, George Miller was an interesting get for him. And like, I mean, I personally will say that I would say that Tarman and Dollman are probably my two favorite characters so far in the game. Like, obviously Dollman as like the sort of like, he's very comparable to like Mimir in the modern God of War game, where he's just like the talking inanimate object that sort of guides you on your journey. And it's like, yeah, totally all about it. Love his animation. But like, yeah, I mean, getting some of Tarman's like backstory, you know, there's a point where we kind of like learn about him and like how he came to you know be who he is. And so I mean, like, I feel like, you know, I feel like Kojima's done a good job with those two characters specifically, but there's also, I feel like I do have some beef with some of the other characters. Matthew, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I think they obviously don't all get equal screen time. Dollman is, I really think he is the star of the cast here. You know, I think he easily has the most lines of dialogue out of any character in the game, including Sam. I mean, because Sam doesn't just doesn't really say that much. I think the if you were to stack this up, Dollman wins in a landslide here. And that was a role that was, I think, heavily filled by Die Hard Man in the first game. Like he was the voice, like, you know, messaging you or talking to you before every mission, which he still sort of, the voice still sort of does that here, but that's a different topic.
I was going to say, let's do a quick pause real quick. So Charlie, you're alluding to, Charlie is sort of like your AI companion that gets put on your ship, the DHV Magellan. Real quick, Joe, Matthew, who did you pick as the voice?
So I went through every option, and it only lets you choose, like, it'll if you try to choose any other ones, it doesn't let you until you pick the right choice.
Yes. I did the same thing. Yeah, I did the same just to see. Charlie will give you a little exposition of what they're doing or how they're doing, but ultimately you have to pick Die Hard Man.
Oh man, that's crazy. So it's funny that you guys mentioned that, because I didn't know that at all, and I literally went with Die Hardman as the voice just because of that comfortability factor of like, no, like this is exactly what I want. So I'm actually a little bit disappointed that you didn't have the other voice options, but that's hilarious. Yeah, and there was also a similar, and I don't want to get too much into spoiler territories here, but Fragile at the very beginning, she comes and she's like, asking you to like reconnect, start reconnecting in Mexico, and at this point, like this is the very beginning of the game, you don't know like what's going on with him and Lou, and like it gives you the option to say yes or no, and I said no, and it eventually forced me to come back and say yes.
Yeah, I wondered what happened if you said no there, but I didn't chance it.
Yeah,
it was a patented tongue-in-cheek, Kojima, like, oh yeah, no, you're actually going to do this now. Yeah, no, I mean, so in terms of, I guess going back to like some of the characters, I mean, like I've seen a little bit of scuttlebutt around sort of the women characters in this game specifically, and while I don't have I wouldn't say I have like biting criticism, I would say it does feel like the women in this game are more one-dimensional. Like Fragile, like I think she's one of the ones where it's like, Joe, you mentioned like I want to know more about like what's been going on between her. She's been very like stiff and stoic and like kind of just, kind of doing that, like fulfilling that Die Hard man role as well, where like we haven't really gotten much from her beyond the intro to the game. And then similarly, like you as you kind of, gain steam throughout the game and like pick up different party members, the two that are sticking out to me are Rainey and Tomorrow, where it kind of just feels like Rainey's whole thing is she's pregnant, and Tomorrow's whole thing is like, oh, she's like, and I say this as someone who's not like totally done with the game yet, so I'll give Kojima the benefit of the doubt, but it just kind of feels like the women in this game, like the only thing that they can do is be pregnant or like have trauma of some kind. So that's my, like, I want to echo that criticism that I've been seeing, because while I do think the entire cast of characters is good, I do find myself like kind of wondering, like, it kind of just seems like he doesn't have as much to say with the women characters in particular.
To be fair, he's only wrote one decent woman character, and that's the boss.
Yeah, that's more of like an evergreen, and like, I don't know, like, I don't say this to mean like, oh my god, he's sexist. It's more of the line, like, maybe he should just consult with more women on these things, and like more,
true.
It very much feels as though these characters are written from a male perspective, to kind of soften a little bit.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I don't think anything as egregious here as like Quiet was in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Guys, it's okay. She breathes through her skin.
Right. Yeah, obviously, of course. I've seen some of that talk online about this as well. I guess maybe my bar was lower. I don't think I have a huge problem with the way they're portrayed here. I mean, I don't know how many women writers were on the staff here, but I think everything is pretty like sensitively done, I would say, that I've seen, and I'm not sure if you guys have gotten to the motherhood camp or whatever, like that facility.
No.
Okay.
I don't think I've gotten there yet.
Without spoiling anything, there's a like what I would consider like a stronger, less one note female side character there. So
cool.
I see the complaints, and I get it, but it hasn't been distracting for me as I play through the game.
And I agree with that assessment entirely. Like, yeah, I would say that nothing is as egregious as, as quiet was, or even like the squad of characters. I forget their name from Metal Gear Solid 4.
Beauty and Beast.
And like, yeah, like, exactly. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything that's like, yeah, like horribly offensive. It's just more so like, and to that point, I think if I could zoom out and say, like kind of distill my thoughts on like even the story up to this point, is that like I'm still very much in the wait and see mode. The first half of the game, it does seem like, okay, there's a lot being thrown at you, lots of different flashbacks, and he was a new character, and hey, you know, she's got this ability and she's got that ability, and so it definitely is a lot to keep up with, which I was expecting. But yeah, it definitely comes down to, like with all things Kojima, like it comes down to, can he land the plane? And at this point, I feel like I trust him enough to land the plane. But yeah, that's my lone critique so far. At least in terms of like the dialogue and the writing.
Yeah, I will say on real quick. I want to. Yeah. You're talking about landing the plane here and the feel of how the plot is progressing. I think because I agree. I get the feeling that everything here is there's a design. There's a method to the madness of everything that's going on here, which is not a feeling that I recall having from the first Death Stranding. From the first Death Stranding, I remember it, like my predominant feeling about it was just like, Kojima's been stuck making Metal Gear Solid games for like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years at that point, and he was like bursting at the seams, like ready to do something else, and he had all these ideas that he just like had to get out there and couldn't quite control the way they all landed. You had the partnership with Monster, and you had like all these like high concept ideas with the Death Stranding, and just like wild stuff in comparison to the relatively grounded Metal Gear Solid series that he'd done before. And I feel like with the several years removed from that, he really had a lot of time to distill the feelings and like the themes that he was working towards in the first game, as well as like the structure. With the first game, you had the flashback sequences with Mads Mikkelsen's character, and in this one you have sort of a similar plot device here. And it all comes together, and maybe this is just partly because I have played the original now, but it all comes across as like very assured, like, okay, we're working inside a framework here that is proven. Yeah. And I have a lot of trust that he knows how to finish strong. Yeah.
That's if I could sum up my thoughts on Death Stranding 2 as a whole, it's Kojima at his most confident, right? Like, I mean, storytelling, gameplay wise, and I think this is a good opportunity to sort of get into the mechanics and how things have evolved since Death Stranding 1. I mean, honestly, man, like there's just a million different, I mean, like this is essentially just Metal Gear Solid 5 and just in this dope ass sci-fi, post-apocalyptic world. And so I mean, like, where, how do we want to start with it? Obviously, like the walking sim, like this isn't beating the walking sim allegations. Like that's still a big part of the gameplay loop here, is plotting your course, preparing, packing, making sure you're not damaging your load. How do we feel about that sort of core gameplay loop and how refined it is this go round?
It feels a lot more tight. Like you're actually gaining more ways to what's the word I'm looking for? Make it a lot easier to. I lost my train of thought.
I feel like I'm more like in control, right? Like I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, right? Like I feel like the first game, like it the buildup was so long that like it took you a long time to sort of get those sea legs underneath you, where I feel like this one is like it just throws you straight in.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't gate as much. It doesn't gate as many of the mechanisms till like later in the game. It basically says, look, like, and I actually might push back on your statement about it not beating the walking sim allegations. I think it at least acknowledges those allegations and tries to sidestep them a little bit, because it gives you those vehicles early on, and you can use those vehicles for the rest of the game, unless you know something drastically changes at the end. Like the first game, you were forced into playing the way it wanted you to play for the majority of the game, but in this one, it kind of steps back and says like, look, we're going to give you all these tools. You can basically play the way you want to play. Like if you want to, you know, go more combat heavy, you can do that. If you want to take it on foot with just nothing but your backpack, you're totally cool to do that. But you also got vehicles, and you know you can mix and match whichever way you want. So I think the detractors of this game are going to say that it loses a bit of its identity because it gives you those options. But it to me it straddles, like it rides the line just perfectly to where it's still Death Stranding, but you know you can play it with a lot more freedom.
Yeah, I would push back against a claim like that because of, like, I feel like this is sort of what the original vision was. Because I mean, my main gripe from a mechanical gameplay perspective from, you know, Death Stranding 1 was the combat and just sort of how limited it felt. And so to come in and it essentially just be like totally open, you have all these different weapons, you know, everything sort of handles a lot better. You can still go in there and do melee and have melee weapons and be stealthy. I mean, it just really feels like, like going back to, you know, like the confidence factor. Like it really just feels like they took all of the best parts of Metal Gear Solid 5 and were just like, yep, like we're going to rip this, we're going to take that. And I mean, you know, like it really does, like this really does to me, like feel like sort of, even, you know, talking strictly to mechanics, like it really does feel like sort of like the greatest hits of all of like Hideo Kojima's like best ideas, and you know, mechanically all of the best things that they've sort of done. You know, even bringing in the music player from Metal Gear Solid 5, like, you know, these are all things that like we've sort of seen over the years. And I mean, you know, and another call out I'll add is the introduction of like the camo system and having just, you know, different suits, and you can be like, you know, that's a direct callback to Metal Gear Solid 3. So it's like to see the evolution and just to see all of these things sort of be put together, it's really impressive.
It's also really interesting that, like, you know, less than a year before this game launched, Kojima came out and was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to make another tactical espionage game. Because I mean, you can see how they go through the motions of like trying to make this game, and they're like, well, you know, we got some ideas here. Like we could do another one of those. You know, obviously not Metal Gear Solid franchise, but we can make a game that leans more in that direction with a lot of the systems that they're still exploring here. So it's not hard to see how they you know, make that leap.
Yeah, no, another compliment I will I'll pay the game to is just how much like the variety in like just the different types of missions that you can take. Like, I mean, I think you were right to push back against the walking simulator aspects, because you do have missions that are entirely combat oriented. You do have some where you're going after BTs and trying to avoid BTs and, you know, the usual stuff. So I think there's a lot more variety here. Joe, what are your thoughts so far on, like, you know, just sort of the mission structure, the pacing of the game? Like, you know, are you getting into it?
Yeah, it is still like more of what the first one was, but it also adds more to it. Like, I do enjoy the fact that, hey, we have mines that you can go out and find and set up a monorail so that way you can trek whatever materials that you might need, send them to one of the big distros, continue on, and maybe build out more of the monorails as you need to, so that way you can use it as a zip line to get wherever you need to go. But also, it's also being able to see, like, oh yeah, there's different types of BTs that you can come across, which was, you know, interesting, because when you start the first game, there is that sense of dread anytime you get to BTs. Now it's like, you're in the way, but I can still deal with it. Like, you can just mow down any of them if you want to, or you can just go on by. And yeah, having those,
stealth them, honestly.
Anytime that I see a BT, I'm like, let me go ahead and take it down. Why not? Because you have guns that are coated with synthetic blood. Might as well.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that the game even gives you the options is right out the gate is impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying more and more as I'm playing. I just haven't done as much of the game that I would like to. I've just been building roads because it's fun.
That's sort of been my big thing is like, yeah, and it seems that we're kind of all in agreement here, right? Is that like just the spirit of like collaboration is really strong in this one. I mean, like I feel it more so than the first one, where it does feel like, yeah, we're all in this together. We're building these roads and like, it definitely feels like as I'm progressing, I'm also progressing, like building the roads out along with me. And so like, I do have a feeling like just, going back to sort of like the confidence factor, like it almost feels like I know what themes Kojima was really wanting to hammer home with these, and like that's kind of where my anticipation is coming from with the story. Is like, okay, if he can deliver on some of what I'm seeing here and like some of what he's hinted at, I think this could go down as like an all-timer.
Yeah, I was just to touch on that. Like, I don't get the like the one more turn feeling that most people get from like either roguelikes or like, Civ games or something like that. I never get that feeling, but let me tell you, I get that one more delivery feeling every time.
Yeah.
I get my truck to the delivery spot and I'm like, oh, there's a standard order right here. Oh, I'm kind of going in that direction. Like I can just go a little bit out of my way and, and I can take some of these materials and I can work on this road, drop these off along the way. That loop there of like planning what you're going to do, packing up your stuff, and even just driving there. You don't even have to be running. Like that is,
and optimizing for the route that you've chosen.
Yes, that is like an all-timer of a gameplay loop right there. Like that is addictive to me in a way that I, struggle to put into words, because that just does not happen to me usually.
Yeah, I did that. I had a gameplay loop moment like that earlier today, actually, where I just was, like, okay, I'm collected this main order. It's way out over here. Okay, so what can I knock out along the way? And hey, yep, there's an auto paver right here. I mean, the map is hyper detailed, so you can see as much or as little as you want. So I mean, yep, there's an auto paver right here. And oh man, like there's a monorail, like I can see where I can extend or attach to connect the monorail. And yep, let me, and so like literally, as I'm making all these decisions, it's like, okay, I need a big truck, and okay, I got my truck, and I'm gonna load my truck. Okay, and I got all these different things, and so, and then just to go and knock it all out in the order, and like everything goes as well as you, like you've planned it out and you've executed it. Like, I think there's no better feeling to piggyback off of what you're saying, Matthew.
100% agree.
Agreed.
But yeah, with that, guys, I think, we're going to put a pause on our conversation about Death Stranding 2. I imagine this is going to be one that we are all going to play, and we'll invite Joe back on to do a spoiler cast for, because, like I said, I think if Kojima can land this plane, I think this is going to be... I'm going to go ahead and say this has the potential to be his best game, at least in my eyes. So yeah, no, I'm interested to see how the rest of my playthrough shakes out, and then interested to see what how we all think about it when it's all said and done. But with that, guys, we're going to take a little bit of break, and we will be right back to talk about ReMatch. And we are back. Thanks for waiting patiently for us. Wesley needed to go take a hit of his vape. How you feeling, Wes?
I had to medicate so the demon stopped yelling at me.
Well, yeah, I think I think that's something we can all get behind. Just like we can get behind a new game from Slow Clap, the developers of one of my favorite games of the last few years, Sifu. They're put out something that's a little bit of curveball for them. They put out a game called ReMatch, which, the scuttlebutt, or at least the description kind of going around the internet is that it's Rocket League with people, i.e. it's soccer, but in that true Slow Clap fashion, it plays like an action game. So it's all third person over the shoulder. You control a single player, and the whole idea is you can have 3, 4, or 5v5 matches against other players, and you're just playing a game of soccer. So Matthew and I have been playing this. I've been playing it quite a bit. I feel pretty strongly, I've got some pretty good, thoughts on it so far, but Matthew, I want to start with you. How are you feeling so far? This is someone who, by the way, guys, won a state championship, down here when we were in high school. So Matthew, I take your thoughts and opinions on all things soccer very seriously. What are your thoughts on ReMatch?
Yeah, so to set the stage a little bit, I used to be a big FIFA player. Now EAFC, I guess is what they're calling the new ones. Yeah, I would, for a while, I guess maybe between 2008 and probably 2014, I was buying them annually. I played a lot of FIFA, but I have not played any in probably the last 10 years. So I have some history with the create a player, mode, which is kind of what ReMatch goes for, but not recently. So the short answer is I think ReMatch is pretty addictive, and I have enjoyed it a lot. But for a game that I have played for maybe 6 hours now, I do think there are I have a lot of problems with it, that maybe would cause me to bounce off of other games if the actual act of kicking a soccer ball wasn't so much fun. So my feelings are positive, but leaning a little bit towards mixed.
Well, can I ask, with the problems, I know you'll allude to them or go into more detail later, but do they seem like they're problems that will be easy for them to fix down the line, or do they seem a little too heavy to change without changing the game itself?
They're fixable, I think. So this game is very bare bones. When you boot this game up, you go through maybe a 15-minute, if that, tutorial that teaches you the bare bones controls of how to play the game, and then it you're on your own. You can queue up a match instantly from there. And
at that point, your only options are the 3v3 mode, which it kind of encourages you to do as a beginner, and then 4v4 and 5v5. That's it.
Yeah.
Nice. So this is quick to okay, hey, I got 10 minutes to kill. Let me do a match or two. And
that you're exactly right. I think the appeal here is the ability to get in and out of matches very quickly, which is, I think, both what I want from this game, but I don't want to be restricted to it. I do want the ability to have longer matches. These games are, I think, 6 minutes. Unless it goes to overtime, that's fine for if I'm just booting it to play one quickly. But if I'm going to play a ranked match or something, a 6-minute match is not what I want. So I feel really conflicted about the match duration, because I think it works both to its advantage. But I think for when you're trying to build a long-term live service game and you're building it around matches that are like 6 minutes long. I mean, that's no time at all. I think you may run into longevity problems unless you give a lot of unless you expand the array of options that you have.
Yeah, I think from a foundational perspective, I think there's a great, I think there's a great competitor to a game like Rocket League and a game like, I think that, like, I think it's balanced, first of all. I think, like, you do have some of the more, like, tricky, people who like to do, like, the trick shots and, sort of like spam, what are they, like, finesse moves? I'm like struggling to think of soccer terminology. But I mean, I do think, the game encourages you to just play with good soccer fundamentals. And I think it has I think the one thing that really impressed me was like how, like, the ping system and like how everything sort of makes it easy to communicate with other players without necessitating a mic. Like the good example I'll say is that, like, you can click the right analog stick at any point to sort of throw up your hand and call for a pass. And what that does is it draws a line from whoever has the ball to your character, so that way they can line up a pass, because it's a full analog control. If you point it one way, you're going to kick it that way. So it kind of encourages you to ask for the ball, and then, like, it makes it easy for your teammate to sort of pass you the ball.
I think it's worth, like, drilling into that because I think that's maybe the boldest, like, design decision in this game, is the fact that passing, which in FIFA is like just like a thoughtless activity.
Magnetic.
You just click the button and it basically zeroes in on whoever you're trying to pass to with almost like perfect accuracy. Whereas in ReMatch, passing the ball accurately is probably literally the hardest activity that you can do in this game.
Yeah.
It's easier to score a goal from across the field than it is to, like, pass to somebody who's calling for the ball that's more than 10 feet away from you.
Yeah, so it's a third person, there's no lock on, there's no, it is very, like, it's a free camera. And yeah, I mean, I think it's, so I mean, I think that's a good example of, like, there is depth there, right? Like, this isn't just sort of a mindless, like, and it does require you to sort of, sort of play the ball as opposed to just running towards other players, or, like, so it does require sort of a baseline knowledge of like, soccer fundamentals.
It does, but man, you would not know it if you play with some of these people online. And here I'm going to rant for a minute about the quality of teammates online. It's garbage. These people have probably never touched a soccer ball in their life. I'm sorry, I have to say it. Like, the number of games that I get into where these are, like, ranked matches, like, you unlocked ranked play after you get to level 5, which, by the way, it takes way too long to reach level 5. That's a different conversation. Like, it took me like 3 hours of just straight playing the game to unlock ranked play, which I feel is a little extreme for a game like this, but I digress. Like,
with as little like content.
Yes, with as little content, you're just spamming quick play. Yeah.
You guys heard it here first. Matthew and Neil are waiting outside the back of the Waffle House. That Waffle House, you know it. They're gonna kick everyone who is shitting at ReMatch. Gonna kick your asses.
Yeah. If any of you are online ruining our games, you need to listen up. Okay. Think about
pass the ball.
Pass the ball. You don't have to chase every ball that's just like anywhere on the map. Like, spread out a little bit. You'll be shocked at how much that opens up the game for passing. Like, I just can't emphasize enough the number of ranked matches I've been in where, you have 3 to 4 people, which is all, when in a 5v5, you have a goalie and then you have four players on the field, where at least 3 of those players are like slide tackling where the ball is all at once. Like, it's ridiculous. The quality of play online, and like,
it's bold of you to assume that the goalie isn't also bringing the ball out and trying to score.
Yeah, the number of players who just, like, because the game acts smartly. After every goal, rotate who plays the goalkeeper. But there's nothing keeping you in that spot. You can just relieve the net and run around, and somebody else will either fill in for you, and it'll switch to them automatically, or you'll just have an empty net that somebody can score from across the field.
Do you know this from experience?
I do, yes, quite a bit of experience.
It is, yeah. It's part of my like instinct to just sort of keep an eye on the keeper, and if they run the ball out, I run immediately and take over for them. Because yeah, it's a thing. And I'm glad you sort of bring this up, Matthew, because while I don't feel as strongly about it, like I sort of knew that was going to happen, right? Like and sort of, so like I kind of knew coming into this, like, okay, this probably isn't going to have like a crazy long shelf life with me. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to give up. And I'm surprised that I've stuck with it as long as I have. But I lament the game that this could have been, because had this come out, say in like the mid 2000s, maybe the late 2000s, like what they were sort of setting up with the intro of the story mode, like give me a full-fledged like action RPG where I'm just creating my own dude and like sort of climbing my way through the ranks, and like it could be fictional, whatever, like that sort of, all of like the tutorial sort of evoked all of that, and then it just did nothing with it, and I was just like, oh, like this sucks. Of course, like the battle pass stuff is all there, and this, like the cosmetics are all kind of like bleh and whatever, and it's like, okay, like why did this need to be a service game again? Because like I feel like as a service it's compelling, but like it just felt like there was a better game in there somewhere.
I agree. Like I said, I totally echo the sentiment where it's like for a game like this, most of the time I would not be still playing it, or would not even want to interact with it anymore. But there is something really, really compelling about the core act of, maneuvering your character, and the moves feel good to pull off. And when you make a save as the goalkeeper, it feels really good. And not to mention like scoring a goal. Like, I mean, when you line up a perfect shot and beat the goalkeeper, like these are amazing, like, moments in this game. But yeah, give me a mode with some bots or something. It doesn't even have to be, I don't even need a career mode. I just need various tiers of skilled bots to play with to learn the game. Because like you talk about the live service aspect, which I think is worth diving into more. But let's say this is a successful live service game. You've got the player base, and I think this has been played by a lot of people. They said that they had 1 million players in the first week, so it's people are out there playing this game. They've got the attention. What about this game is going to keep people coming back? And I wonder if this is. I've gone back and forth. I don't know if it's a me problem. Like, am I asking something of this game that it just fundamentally is not? But at the same time, I come back to like, well, if it's not going to be that, how is it going to hold anybody's attention long term if it doesn't have more meat than what's there right now?
Yeah. I don't see like there's not much there in terms of like even unlocking stuff. And granted, this is still like season 0, and this is like I don't know what they've got planned. I don't think they put out like a roadmap or anything like that. I saw that they did some tweaks here and there to like sort of like nerfing certain things. But yeah, it's interesting to me because like I think enough people are sold sort of on the core pitch. But yeah, I wonder if I think Marvel Rivals is a good example of a game that just sort of came out like really hot and heavy and then sort of has just kind of whittled down over time. And I think that's kind of the norm for live service games.
But even that, you've got new characters. Like, you've got new characters to do there. Like, what seasonal content are you going to add into this game other than
the only thing could
pure
be
cosmetics?
Yeah, like just new stages and new stuff. But yeah, I think outside of that, it's, that I guess really what you would really hope for, if you're Slow Clap, is like to eventually collaborate with like Adidas and like other like soccer brands, not necessarily FIFA, but just things that are going to have more cachet with, I would imagine that core audience is really into soccer and street soccer and, like all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think they actually do have, I saw an Adidas logo somewhere in the game menu, so they've got something cooking on that front.
Didn't it launch with a Ronaldinho skin too?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I thought it, yeah, I let me double check and make sure I'm not refreshing that. What were you going to say?
And I was going to say, I did also see that they've said that there is going to be a offline mode with AI teammates that will be coming in 2026. So cool. It's still a long time away. I don't know. It feels like maybe it's this should have been billed as early access. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really going to come down to what all they have plans to add, and whether they're able to add that fast enough to maintain the momentum that they've got here in the opening couple weeks.
Well, this seems like a game that you both hate to love.
No, I love it. I straight up love it. It's so to clarify, like to clarify on that, it very much is like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 that I very much do love, like a 10 out of 10. Like I could see myself getting into, streams, like to echo Matthew's point, like there's an audience, like people are playing this game, people are streaming it, and like if I could find some like high level streamers, like I could get into this. But to Matthew's point, I don't know if it's going to capture my attention, like in a way that like something like Marvel Snap did, because they were always putting out content month after month, month after month. And like, I just don't see that pipeline here as well. Like I think it's going to be a little bit more of a slow churn.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to kind of talk about in terms of longevity is like the skill ceiling. So, I mean, I don't know if they've explicitly said that they want to be compared to Rocket League, but that is the obvious comparison here. Rocket League has a very high skill ceiling. I mean, if you watch, like there's professional Rocket League players, and if you've ever played Rocket League, the experience that you see on the screen when you're watching them play is very different than what it is when you're playing online. Like there are people who are very, very good at it, which I don't know if the skill ceiling in ReMatch is that high, and until you factor in like you have a 5-man squad and you're all playing, like coordinating. I feel like the coordination of a team may be the skill cap, but the individual like player moves skill cap is not that high. But what I do think is maybe the source of some of the complaints that I was talking about earlier is the opposite of this, is which it has a low skill floor. Like the bad people in this game are very bad. Like in some games, you can kind of still win with a bad teammate. But in this game, if your teammate is bad enough, it's impossible to win. Because, I mean, like, you get somebody in the keeper that doesn't know what they're doing. They're just letting in goals left and right, to where it makes the match quality, like the average match quality that you get in, can be kind of low, which I think is a problem. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Again, this may partly be just a me problem, but I do want to play more, despite all of that, to kind of find out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to kind of allude back to some of the points you were making earlier, like there are very high highs in this game. Like like I would argue that, you mentioned like, like saving a goal as a keeper. I would say like, when you are able to like cross to a team, like there's nothing more satisfying to me than getting an assist on a cross on a perfectly placed ball. Like I got that pass 10 out of 10 perfect, and it got the guy right on the foot, and he was able to knock it in for the goal. So yeah, I mean, there's really high highs. I mean, yeah, to speak to sort of the skill ceiling side of it as well, like I do wonder if like it seems like there's only like 2 or 3 different like sort of shot styles you can take. So I mean, similarly to Rocket League, there's, it's like a fully enclosed space, so you can theoretically kick the ball really high and then like rebound it to yourself to then like do a header or a bicycle kick. So you see a lot of people doing that. Obviously you can do traditional crossing, but like it does seem like, it seems like there needs to be like another element or another factor. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see definitely like what the first season of content looks like.
Yeah, and a lot of the rules of soccer are sanded off as well. I mean, we didn't talk about this, but like if you've ever watched soccer, like a lot of the rules, like there's no out of bounds because it's an enclosed space. There's no offsides. There's no referee. There's no fouls. You can't. You can score an own goal, but once the keeper grabs the ball, you can run into your own net. It's not just if it crosses the line; it has to cross the line without the goalkeeper holding it. So they remove a lot of like rules and sort of finer points of the game, and I don't know if that's for the better. I mean, obviously, like some of them I think are good choices just for the sake of keeping the pace up, but you have to wonder again if having few of those points of friction is going to mean that it has less staying power in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, the point I keep coming back to while we have this conversation is like, yeah, what does a season of content look like? Like, is it just cosmetics? Is it new gameplay? Like, you know, what's a big announcement from Slow Clap gonna look like? Where it's like, hey, yeah, we've got like our big 2.0 update. Like, is it just gameplay enhancements? Is it, you know, I don't see much of a road forward for it other than just sort of like fine tuning and roughing, sanding down the edges.
Yeah, I mean, I think like some cosmetics are fine. I mean, that's not really my thing, but like different celebrations when you score would be cool, or maybe like visual flourishes when you perform certain tricks. I don't know. But I mean, I think there's a lot like that you can add. Like, you know, if you have a season of, you know, if they want to go seasonal, like, I don't know, like a tournament mode or something where you can, where in addition to just ranked play, you can get seeded into, you know, like a tournament bracket or something and play through it. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
it's
more game modes is probably the. I mean, and it seems like next year by next year they're planning on having like at least bots, and maybe it's just different, you know, more like casual game modes that, like, you know, maybe there's like a good idea for like a dodgeball game in there somewhere where you gotta like avoid getting hit by the ball. I don't know, you know, like I'm sure that that's a direction that they could go as well, like sort of like the Overwatch limited time event type thing,
mini game type things. Yeah, that's an option as well. I think so.
Yeah, no, but it'll be really interesting to see how that game progresses. I mean, I'm a big fan of Slow Clap. I think they make good games, and I'm glad that this game at least has found an audience, and hasn't, like, you know, at least it seems to have legs on it for now, which in the era of live service video games is never guaranteed. But yeah, that's going to do it for our show tonight, guys. We're really glad that you came and listened to us today. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever podcast service that you listen to us on. Leave a review for us if you don't mind. Tell Wesley that it's okay to hit a vape, you know, to hit his vape to keep the demons away. That's okay. And just let us know how much you love us. There's a link tree in the description that's got all of our social handles. We're going to include Joe's in there as well. Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Afro Cyborg Craves Pizza.
And yeah, guys, thanks for joining us. And Joe, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you guys for having me.
And with that, we will see y'all on the next one.